I'm Tina, and today we're going to make several different things out of oranges. We're going to start off with our peelings. I'm peeling peeling an orange. I'm going to, later on in another video, I'll be canning the orange segments. But for right now, I'm going to make the candied peels out of the peelings. We normally buy only Texas or Florida citrus. It's the best quality citrus. It's the sweetest tasting, and we like it the best. But for this particular product, when I want to candy the peels, I want really super thick skins with lots of that white on them. So these are Chilean oranges, but California oranges are also good for that. They're beautiful on the outside, and that's why I'm going to can the segments from these, is so I can put some sugar in them and maybe try to sweeten them up a little bit. So to peel them for this purpose, the simplest thing to do is just to peel them with your fingers, just so that you get as much as possible of that white membrane off on the peels. There are recipes out there that will tell you to trim that white off. I don't. In fact, that's the best part. I don't know if maybe 100 years ago orange peels had bitter in this peel, but they don't anymore. And in fact, that's the part that will absorb the sugar and be sweet and tender and tasty to eat. So, peel them off. I'll set this one aside, and I'll show you how to segment it in the next video. I've got my other ones all segmented there. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to slice these peels into 1/4-inch slices. The ends and skins that are super thin, like our normal Texas or Florida citrus skins, I just save them and dry them plain. I chop them into small pieces and dry them plain. And that's what I use for my my orange zest. And I keep a jar of dried orange zest, and so any recipe that calls for it, there it is. You can just dry the white too. It doesn't hurt it at all. So, oops, wrong knife. Big one here. Curl my fingers under so I don't run my knife over them. I'm a bit clumsy when it comes to knives, so I curl so that the knife hits my knuckles and not my fingers. And I don't like my slices to be too long. I think that's just about long enough. If they're too long, they're a little bit hard to handle. And with the Christmas time coming up and all of our holiday baking, we're going to enjoy having candied orange peel around for a lot of different things. You can use it in your fruit cakes. Whoops, boiling over here. Okay, this is what I'm fixing to do. I'm fixing to add this peel to this pot that I've just brought to a boil, to an overboil. I've added, I'm going to add some salt. The first water that you boil these peels in, add a good big teaspoon of salt to that water for the first boil. Now we're going to bring it to boil, and we're going to let it boil for a few minutes. And while that's doing, we're going to make our syrup. Set these aside. These I'll put in my dehydrator, or you can just lay them out in where they can air dry. As long as they're laid flat somewhere where the air can get to them, they'll dry. They won't go bad. They'll dry real quickly for you. All right. My syrup, I'm just going to use, here we go. I'm going to cover my hair for this because we can sell candy in our cottage food businesses, and so I don't think that this is going to be for sale, but just in case, I'm going to treat it as though it were. Wash my hands again since I touched my hair. There we go. All right. For this batch of syrup, you want to work in small batches. Anytime you're making candy, you want really small batches. Otherwise, It's too much to handle. So I'm using 1 cup of water, and I'm using 2 cups of granulated sugar, and we use cane sugar. We don't use beet sugar. We use Imperial Pure cane sugar, or C&H cane sugar, but Imperial is good because that's a Texas product. And I'm going to use honey. Most recipes call for corn syrup. Plain old-fashioned corn syrup is fine. It's not the same as the high fructose junk, but I'm trying to get away from using anything related to corn except in cornmeal. So I'm going to use honey. You could probably, and I may later this year, I may experiment with it. You could probably use only honey and omit the sugar and just increase the amount of it. I haven't tried that though. If you don't have honey, you could use sorghum. You could even use molasses. You could use cane syrup, whatever syrups you have. Maple syrup would probably be fabulous. And my honey, I only buy local honey. You can no longer trust the honey that's available in grocery stores. China buys American wildflower pollen and imports it and mixes it with sugar water and sends it back over here as adulterated honey that cannot be discovered. And all of the big companies that mix honey from many different sources have a challenge with this. So if you're buying from a very small local producer, it's worth paying extra for and just finding ways to conserve your honey use. And that's what I'm doing here by mixing it with the sugar instead of using only honey. But I know that this is full 100% honey made by bees and not old sugar water. It's a shame we can't trust these people with anything. They'll just oops. Anyway, all right. So I'm gonna mix these together here and gently heat them until the sugar's melted, and then I'm gonna add add part of my peel. Now I have a big pan of peel cooking there, but I'm not going to process all of that all at once. This little batch is for about 2 cupfuls of peel, or about the peel from about 8 oranges.
Now, is this a similar process starting out here? Is it similar to when you're going to make marmalade? You still do boilings on it and stuff, right?
Yes,
and
yes.
Sort of candy.
Yes, you do. But when you're going to make marmalade, then you do need to. If you're going to make marmalade, that's when you do need to carefully remove all of the pith.
Okay.
So you want to, because all you want is that zest in your marmalade, and in fact, see, I can do it with a knife after it's been peeled. But the
we'll have to
easiest
do a batch
way,
of marmalade when we get some good Texas citrus in.
oh, do some of that peach marmalade.
Okay.
It's so
yeah,
good.
We'll do that.
The easiest way is to, in fact, I think I have a little zester, but the easiest way is to use your little paring knife. This is not a paring knife, but I'm going to use it because it's handy. Save me walking across the kitchen. And just slice very thinly off of that orange so that you can almost see through that slice. And you could even do this to preserve your zest and then continue to peel the orange and candy that part of the peel that's left. So you can find ways to use every piece of the orange. I haven't found a use for the seeds yet, but everything else can all be used. All right. My syrup is heating here. I'm heating it on a kind of a low heat. I want to melt the sugar, and now my peels have boiled for about 10 minutes. So I'm going to strain them off, and I'm going to put some clean water in them that doesn't have salt in it, and rinse them off. And I'll be right back. We're back. sugar's melted and my syrup is hot. Now I'm going to take some of my my boiled orange peel, and I'm going to put about 2 cupfuls of it in this syrup. I'm going to let the rest just sit in my water there and wait. Now, if you you can also plan this where you're only doing a few oranges at a time. I just happen to have a big bag of them, so I want to get them all done. All right, now I'm going to cook this these orange peels in this syrup until they turn clear. But I'm going to cook them on a really low heat. So it's going to take probably about 40 minutes. So we'll be back in. Okay, we're back. It's been a little while, about 40 minutes, and my peelings have absorbed a lot of the liquid and gotten very, very clear. So now I'm going to drop them into a bowl of sugar. You can also drain them for a little bit on a rack. Pour them all, scoop them all out and let them drain for a couple of minutes. But for purposes of this small batch, I'm just gonna drop them in there, and then use a couple of other forks to toss them in this sugar. Now, if you don't have a dehydrator, you can lay these on a rack and dry them in a slow oven, or turn your oven on and warm it up and then turn it off and leave them set overnight in the cold oven. And then leave them out where they can continue to air dry for a couple of weeks. Don't put them into airtight containers until they're completely dry. Otherwise, they'll spoil. You want to let them continue to get the air and dry. But having a dehydrator, they'll be able to do in 24 hours what it would take a whole week or more to do outside. And that's what I'm just going to continue to lay these out on my regular pan, and then I'll put them in the dehydrator at 125 degrees and leave them until they're completely dry, nice and crispy. All right, we're back. This is how they should look when they're finished. Nice and shiny and crisp, and they might have a little bit of pliability in them. These could probably go a little bit longer. You still want to leave these in a container where the air can get to them, because in an airtight container the moisture would stay in there. So I'm going to put these in for a little while longer, but they're really tasty to eat right now. If at this stage, if the orange part of the peel is too hard for your teeth, you can go in before you after you've boiled them in plain water, before you boil them in sugar water, and just barely remove that little bit of the zest. Or, like I showed you earlier, you could take the zest off before you peel them, so that all you're really candying is that white part, and that'll be nice and tender for our old teeth that are full of fillings. And that's it. I'll be right back showing you how to can the oranges that we peeled earlier to make these with.